Hey everyone, welcome back to Carrie's Thrifty Farmhouse. If you're new here, I'm Carrie, and I absolutely love creating high-end farmhouse decor on a thrift store and Dollar Tree budget. Today I'm back with more quick and easy farmhouse style DIYs. When I think of spring, there's nothing that comes to mind more than flowers. So today I'm showing you 10 ways to create fun spring vases using Dollar Tree containers. And of course I'm putting my own little spin on them and using some unconventional materials that maybe you wouldn't have thought of before. And you know the drill. If you like what you see, I would truly love for you to hit that subscribe button and help me grow my channel. And if this is your first time here, be sure to introduce yourself in the comments below. I'd love to connect. For my first project today, I'm using these short jars that I found in the kitchen section of Dollar Tree and this cool kitchen hand towel. It had a rolling pin on the front, but I'm going to be using the back part of the towel, which has this nice white and gray print. Sometimes these great patterns are hiding, so definitely be sure to look past what is shown on the rack. Here you see me trying to decide whether I wanted the lines to run horizontally or vertically. I decided I liked the vertical better, so I laid the container down on the fabric to gauge how much I needed to cut. I knew I needed a little excess fabric at both the top and the bottom for gluing, so I measured out 7 inches, drew my lines, and trimmed the fabric. One thing I noticed was that the existing seam on the towel was not straight, which is sometimes what you get with Dollar Tree products. That's an easy fix though. I just created a new seam using hot glue. Next, I lined the towel up to the jar. I made sure the top of the fabric was a little bit above the top of the jar, and since the fabric has lines going straight up and down, I also made sure that the fabric was super straight. Then I just attached the fabric to the jar with hot glue. I rolled the jar until the fabric went all the way around, trimmed off the excess, and glued the fabric down. Then I placed the jar upside down on my workspace. I started with gluing the front part down, which is the side opposite the seam, as that's the part that I want to look the best. Then I worked front to back on each side, gathering and gluing the fabric down as I went. Since the fabric is super thin, it wasn't too lumpy, so I knew it would still sit flat on a surface. When all the fabric was glued down, I trimmed off the excess and my jar cover was finished. I decided I wanted to add a little embellishment, so I used this gray and white twine from the craft section at Dollar Tree. I just wrapped it around several times and tied it with a shoelace bow, and that completed my first project. And here they are on my kitchen counter. I just love how these turned out. One towel made 2 jar covers, and there was also this polka dot version of the towel, so I made one with that as well. I think these would add a nice little farmhouse touch to any kitchen or bathroom, and they can work in your decor year-round, which makes them even better. For my next project, I'm using a hurricane vase and one of these plastic sink liners, both from Dollar Tree. I started out by wrapping the hurricane with the mat to gauge where I needed to trim. I was super happy because the pattern worked out perfectly to have one of the solid lines at both the top and the bottom. It was like the mat was made for this purpose. In order to ensure that the mat stayed level around the entire base, I decided to glue the middle down first. You can definitely see the glue through the mat, so normally I wouldn't do this, but I'm going to be painting it anyway, so we won't see the glue in the finished product. Then I laid the hurricane down on its side and ran some glue along the top and bottom of the mat and just rolled it to attach it. I ran some glue along the end of the mat as well and rolled that side too. There was a small space where the mat didn't go all the way around. No one will see this, so you can leave it as is, but I'm sort of a stickler about things being finished, so I did some surgery and cut strips from the excess pieces I had trimmed off and made it so the pattern went all the way around. Then it was time for the paint. I used my Rust-Oleum white linen chalk paint because it's thicker than regular acrylic craft paint, so normally I wouldn't need as many coats. I'm not gonna lie though, this was super tedious to get the paint in all the nooks and crannies, so if I had a do-over I would probably use spray paint instead, but I was determined in this case to finish it the way I started. What did help was painting up and down in the first coat, but side to side on the second. This helped lay the paint down in all 4 edges of the box cutouts. It took 2 full coats of paint and then some touch-ups in a few areas to get full coverage on this piece. And here it is on my bathroom counter. I think this looks really high-end, so for only $2, this is a complete steal. You could also paint it any color to match your decor. I think it would look really chic in black or gray. For my next 2 projects today, I'm using 2 different sizes of clay pots from Dollar Tree in this fun burlap messenger bag. The front has this cool geometric print on it and the back is just plain burlap. I start out by deconstructing the bag. I remove the straps and separate the front and back pieces. For the first project, I'm using the larger type of clay pot, which comes in a pack of 2 from Dollar Tree. I take a little extra time to make sure that the pot is in the middle. Then I bring up each corner and attach them to the pot with hot glue. Then I brought the first side in and glued it down as well. That created 2 new flaps, so next I folded those into the middle and glued them down slightly overlapping. This created a neat circle on the side, which I think looked pretty cool. I repeated that step for the other 3 sides. First I glued in the side, then folded the 2 flaps in overlapping. I do like things to look the same, so I always folded the right side in first, then the left, but that's just how I am. I'm not sure it makes a difference, so you can do what you think looks nice. I could have stopped there, but I thought it looked nice to bend down the corners, so that's what I did. I didn't want them to be glued down flat, just a slight bend, so I put a small dot of glue at the very tip of the fabric and bent it down to attach it to the sides. I repeated this with the other 3 corners. And here they are on my counter. I just love how these turned out. I love how the overlapping fabric created these geometric bends on the sides. And something about these made me think of desert or prairie, so I put some spiky greens and grasses in them, which I think looks really nice. For my next project, I'm using the back of the messenger bag, which is just plain burlap, and the tiny pots from Dollar Tree that come in a pack of 3. I started by trimming the seams away from the fabric and ensuring there was enough fabric to go all the way around the pots. Then I wanted a clean edge around the top, so I folded the fabric over about 1/4 of an inch and glued it down to form a seam. Next, I laid the pot down and wrapped it with the fabric to gauge how much fabric to trim off the bottom. I decided to leave about 1/2 inch of fabric so that I would have enough to glue it to the pot. Next, I glued the fabric around the pot. I started out by just gluing it to the rim in the back, not down the entire side. Since the pot is narrower at the bottom than it is at the top, I wanted to keep the fabric free so that I could gather and scrunch it and glue it as I went. If I had a do-over on this first part, I would have found the middle of the fabric and glued it to the rim in the front first. This would have ensured that the fabric laid exactly how I liked it in the front, which is what most people will see. I laid the pot upside down on my workspace and started gluing the fabric down, working from front to back, gathering and gluing as I went. Because of the woven nature of this fabric, it's really easy to burn yourself, so be careful with the hot glue. I definitely burned myself a couple times. When I got to the back, I skipped gluing the very back of the bottom and concentrated first on the fabric on the side. I first glued one side down, then gathered the excess fabric from the other side and glued it down. It ended up needing to be cut almost diagonally because there was so much excess fabric. Then finally I glued down the remaining fabric to the bottom. Be sure to trim off as much fabric as possible, otherwise the pot will sit unevenly. Next, I decided to add a small stencil to the front of the pot. I used the stencil sheet from the Dollar Tree that has little flowers on it and thought the one that looked the best was the one with 5 separate petals in a center circle. I placed the stencil where I wanted it, then used a Sharpie to draw the shapes. Oh my gosh, these are so cute. I think there are lots of other small stencils that would work on these as well, or you could even do words or letters. They'd also be really fun on a tiered tray. Okay, so my next project is super quick and easy and uses another clay pot and some wrapping paper from Dollar Tree. I liked this brown paper with the polka dots because I thought it looked like butcher paper, which is used in lots of farmhouse decor. But you can use whatever paper you like. I just traced one of our larger dinner plates that's about 11 inches across and cut out the circle. Next, I glued each of the 4 sides to the pot. Then, like wrapping a gift, I folded 2 of the flaps toward each other, overlapping them and gluing them down. I repeated that on the other side, and the paper sleeve was as easy as that. I wanted to add a little embellishment, so I grabbed the lace ribbon from Dollar Tree and glued it around the rim and trimmed the excess. Then I created a bow by gluing down a strip of fabric and folding each side in and gluing those. Easy peasy, and it looks super cute. And here it is on my kitchen counter. I think it turned out so cute, and I definitely want to do more of these with plain butcher paper and add some stamps or stencils like with the burlap pots. I think those would be great on a kitchen windowsill. Alright, my next project is another simple one. It literally took me 2 minutes. I started with one of these short vases from Dollar Tree, but there are several options at Dollar Tree that would work for this, including their stemless wine glasses. Then I picked out a fun patterned sock. I liked this polka dot for spring, but Dollar Tree has tons of seasonal styles, so pick out whatever you like or what fits with your decor. I just stretched the sock over the vase upside down so that the toe was at the top. Then I trimmed it off and just glued the sock to the inner rim of the vase. Depending on the color and pattern of the sock, you may want to paint the vase first, but I was okay with being able to see through it a little, so I didn't do that this time. Then I just repeated the trimming and gluing on the bottom. I left about 1.5 inches of fabric at the bottom so that I could stretch and glue it in sections, then trimmed off the excess at the end. Oh my gosh, these are so super cute for spring. As you can see, I picked out a fun St. Patrick's striped pair, and I have a watermelon pair I want to try later, maybe in the summer. These would be fun in a kid's room or even on a bathroom counter. The options are really endless with the different patterns they have seasonally at Dollar Tree too. For my next project, I'm using these plastic popcorn containers from Dollar Tree, which come in a pack of 2. I started out by painting them white. For what I'm doing, I could have just painted the 2 striped sides, but as you know, I'm pretty thorough and I just wanted to paint the whole container. I used the Rust-Oleum white linen again in this one, and it did take 2 coats on the sides that had the stripes. Then I saw these fun blue and green tropical looking napkins with palm leaves, and I knew I wanted to Mod Podge them onto the containers. I just gave the sides a thin coat of Mod Podge, then laid the napkin down. The napkins are pretty thin, so what I found was that however I laid it down the first time is basically where it needed to stay. I was able to smooth out most of the wrinkles, but there were a few that had to stay because I was afraid I would tear it if I tried to smooth it out too much. The pattern is busy enough that I don't think you can notice any of the wrinkles in the final product, but let me know in the comments if you have any tricks for getting wrinkles out when it's a fragile type of fabric like this. I let each side dry individually and then trimmed off the excess fabric. I thought the rotary blade would work best, so you see me trying it here, but it was not cutting a clean, crisp line like I wanted, so I ended up just using scissors. I repeated the process on all 4 sides and then did a couple layers of... Oh my gosh, Pepper is howling at the sirens again. All right, I think she's done. So I used Mod Podge over the top to seal it in and protect it. I also repeated the same process with this pink butterfly scarf, which I thought looked really neat. There are so many different fabrics at Dollar Tree. I just picked what I liked and what I thought would work, but I think there are some wall decals or even some rub-off transfers that could work for these. And here they are. I know I say this every time, but I just love how these turned out. And the way they are wider at the top than the bottom gives them a little more visual interest than the typical square vase. And you can use whatever matches your decor. Alrighty, we've made it to number 7. For this project, I'm using one of these small plastic planters, which come, I think, in a pack of 3 from Dollar Tree. And then I decided to cover it with this cool infinity scarf. There are a ton of different patterned scarves, but I liked this one because it's sheer but green like the container, so it saves me the step of having to paint it first. Instead of gluing all the way around the rim at the top and then moving to the bottom, I found it easiest to work in sections and glue first at the top and then stretch it to the bottom and working back and forth around the container. This made it so that there were very few, if any, wrinkles in the fabric, so it didn't awkwardly gather in any areas. I also found that it was best to start in the middle of what will be the front and work around to one side and then the other. Basically, when it started to get a little wonky, I went back to the front and worked around the other side and found that it only started to get wonky again when it was at the point of meeting the other fabric, so it worked out perfectly. Because of the shape of the container and the way it's narrower at the bottom, it made the fabric turn as I worked. So I started out with the fabric horizontal, and by the time I got to the back, it was vertical. This didn't matter with the geometric nature of the pattern I was using, but just be aware of that when picking a fabric because it might not work as well with, say, a striped fabric. And here it is. As you can see, I made a couple other planters with this same technique, including one with the butterfly scarf I used on the popcorn container. I love how you can mix and match or even make coordinating planters in different sizes and shapes with the same fabric. These are super fun, and I think at least one of these will probably end up in our downstairs bathroom. In this next project, I'm using these tote bags from Dollar Tree and another one of the small plastic planters like the last project. I started out by trimming one side of the tote bag into a square that was about 11 inches across. I glued the container down in the middle, then similar to other projects, brought each of the 4 corners up and glued them to the sides. Then, similar to some of the previous projects, I glued each side first in the middle, then folded each of the flaps in toward the center. I repeated this with the 3 other sides, and the project was really that easy. Again, with these tote bags, there are quite a few choices, so just pick what you like or what fits in with your decor. Not sure if you can tell, but the pink one has this honeycomb pattern, which I love, and my favorite color is yellow, so you know I had to factor that one in too. I really love how these turned out. They have a similar look to typical wraps that come on store planters, but those are so plain, usually only just one color, so I think these are way brighter and way more fun, and they're less than $1 a piece to make, so you can't beat that. Okay, we made it to our last project, and I think I saved the best for last. I started out with this stemless wine glass, which I have to say are really great quality, nice and thick glass, and even taller than the ones I actually use. Then I gave it a quick coat of, you guessed it, Rust-Oleum white linen chalk paint. I'm sorry, I'm nearly off camera in this. I actually think I've been like that in quite a few of the segments today. I had to take down my overhead camera recently, and I guess when I put it back up, it wasn't in the same spot. Anyway, back to the project. I saw these cool butterfly and dragonfly wall decal stickers at Dollar Tree recently, and I wasn't sure exactly how I would use them, but I knew I had to have them. I just played around with placement. I knew I wanted them to be on an angle, and I liked the idea of them being slightly off the edge. I took my time smoothing out the stickers, working from the middle outward. Then I just bent the sticker over the rim of the glass. I added a dragonfly to the middle and followed the same process of smoothing it out from the center outward. Then I added another butterfly, only this one I had flying in the opposite direction from the first. Again, toward the top with a little bit of its wing over the edge of the glass. I was happy with how it looked with just the 3, so I didn't go all the way around the glass. I just added a couple coats of Mod Podge to seal in the stickers. I probably did about 3 coats, allowing it to dry in between. I'm impatient, so I used a hairdryer to speed the process along. I've been thinking about getting a heat gun to help with my projects. Let me know in the comments if you have one and whether you think it's worth it. Oh my gosh, I love these so much. I made 2 of these, but already gifted one to a friend that had a birthday this week. Happy birthday, Marna! I'm definitely going back to grab more of these stickers because I love how these turned out, and I see them working in other projects as well. So there you have it, 10 ways to spruce up Dollar Tree planters and vases. If you made it all the way through, thank you so much for watching. I hope this inspired you to think outside the box a little and use unconventional materials in your decor. Let me know in the comments which of these you think would work in your decor. And if you make one of these projects, I'd love to see it, so come and find me on Instagram and share. If you enjoyed this video, I would love for you to hit that subscribe button. It really helps support my channel so I can bring you more budget DIYs. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you can stay up to date with my content. I have lots more spring DIYs headed your way that you won't want to miss, so stay tuned for those. See you next time. Bye!